Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Kimberley Hoeppner. In just a few moments, we'll be on to your aviation, public, and marine forecasts. But remember, when we're not here, you can always get our information at www.arh.noaa.gov. You could also call our weather information line right here at 1-800-472-0391. And if you're on the internet, make sure to search up the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter options on our local web pages. Now, I just wanted to go over some of the total snow accumulations that came in as of Saturday night. This post was put together for you on Sunday morning, so let me just step out of the way here and you can see some of those snow totals across the area, with Glen Allen just getting over 12 inches, Valdez in the 24 to 36 inch range out towards the pass. And then across the Anchorage Bowl, I saw amounts ranging from 5 to 9.5 inches, highest in East Anchorage. And then totals across Palmer and Wasilla was between 9 and 10 inches. Across the Kenai, they saw a range of just under an inch up to 5 inches. Now, looking at the snow that's been ongoing, it's mainly across the southwest, but we do have some winter weather advisories for snow and blowing snow still across the northern areas along the southeastern Brooks Range here and south towards the upper AKwx valleys. And we're looking at these advisories across the southeastern Brooks Range expiring this evening. So stay tuned as the central areas here will be continuing through noon on Sunday, with visibilities reducing to 1/2 mile at times, with blowing snow as an issue. Not much more snow is expected to accumulate, possibly up to an inch, but really the blowing snow is going to be the concern in those areas. Now, looking at the satellite today, you can see there's still a large plume of moisture just kind of moving towards the west at this point. And then the low pressure system is still situated south of the Kodiak Island area. And off to the west, we have a ridge that's building into the western areas of the Bering. So rather quiet conditions there. Now taking a look across the southeast, mainly just some broken clouds passing through the area and a few stray showers with weak upper level disturbances moving here. Area that looks kind of clear here. This is primarily just a lower cloud that you can't see, but there are some low clouds, and mostly what you should note is that these white clouds are the warm air mass that kind of is streaming up across the south areas of the state back towards the western and Aleutian ranges. So this is going to be important as we head into your day tomorrow. Now, here's the low pressure system. It's a weak low, 993 millibars, with some light rain showers occurring across the north and western areas of the Gulf. And then we have a mix of rain and snow just coming into the Prince William Sound and along the Kodiak Island area. They tapered off this afternoon, but they wound up being rain later in the day. The snow line is right across the Alaska Range here, back towards areas of the Bristol Bay, mainly along the mountains and towards King Salmon and Dillingham. The weak front is starting to pull towards that west coast there. Some light snow showers are still occurring across the northwestern coast. Blowing snow is across the northern tier of the state, including the coastal areas, with some fog up there towards Barrow. And now across the western areas of the state, here's that ridge at the surface just off of Kamchatka, and some showery conditions just kind of streaming along behind the cold front that pushed through yesterday. Here's the cold front placement well south of the Aleutian chain. Now, as we head into the evening, this pattern is not going to change much. This low is going to remain stationary, bring some showers again across the northeastern Gulf Coast back towards the western areas of the Gulf, but the main focus for showers is going to be along this weak upper level boundary that's moving across the southwestern areas of the state. Here's the blowing snow across the upper Yukon Flats and the upper Koyukuk Valley. Visibilities, like I said, are going to be reduced through the night down to 1/2 mile. Fog also will develop across the coastal areas along the north, with the showery activity staying across the Bering and a northwesterly flow between 20 to 35 miles per hour in those areas. Otherwise, across the southeast, they stay out of the weather as low pressure stays to the west, and the area of concern tonight across the south central area may be some patchy fog development wherever they break out of the clouds during the overnight hours. May see some patchy fog in its place. Now, as we head into the day on Monday, looking at this low pressure system, it's not moving very far. It's just kind of staying in the same place, brings some shower activity, mainly some light snow showers possible across Kodiak, but changing over to rain as soon as it warms up there. And then across the eastern areas of the Gulf, we have a little bit of a stronger wind as the gradient tightens with this low, just creeping a little bit further north and west. And here's the gradient along the central areas of the state. This will begin to relax as we head into your Monday. So the blowing snow shouldn't be a concern on Monday. However, the northern coast and northwest coast should look out for blowing snow conditions to continue as the gradient stays tighter along the north and western areas, with ridging kind of dropping down towards the eastern Beaufort Sea coast there, and this low just a little bit slightly more north than it was situated today. Now, taking a look at your Tuesday forecast, this low pressure system is going to be replaced by a new low pressure system. This is developing in the North Pacific, and this low is going to be below 970 millibars as it pushes up towards the southern Gulf. This occluded front will be bringing a band of rain as it moves towards the Gulf. Now, the models are still working on figuring this out, but we are expecting that this low pressure will push to the east and possibly a little bit further north. So areas across the southeast and along the Panhandle should stay tuned for this low pressure system if you have any outdoor activities. Now, across the south central areas will stay mainly dry as we get some showers that are riding up ahead of this low pressure system. So we're going to be seeing a warming trend actually across all the southern areas of the state, with temperatures getting into the upper 30s to lower 40s across much of the area. Now, the southwestern areas, the warmer temperatures will begin to nudge in by Tuesday. However, right along the coast will stay cool enough to keep those showers, mainly snow, as they drop down through the eastern areas of the Bering. Now, across the western areas of the Bering is going to continue under high pressure, so mainly just low clouds in that direction, with another low pressure system beginning to approach the Aleutians, but we're not expecting any impacts through Tuesday on that. And then across the north and western coastal areas, the gradient does stay a little bit tighter, so a north and easterly flow will continue across the coastal areas. Now, for the temperatures today, they had gotten very warm again across the Gulf waters. They were up into the mid-40s, with the warmest temperatures reaching into the mid-50s all across the southeast, with Clowalk approaching 60 degrees during the afternoon hours. Now, the central areas of the state are starting to warm this afternoon, all the way up into the mid-20s to mid-30s, and then as you look to the north, still in the single digits and just below zero as you approach the northwest coast. The Seward Peninsula, you see a quick climbing with temperatures back into the teens. Looking at your areas out across the southwest, temperatures were also mainly in the mid-teens, with a cold front keeping temperatures cool across the Bering in the mid-20s to upper 20s. Now, further to the west, those temperatures were into the mid-30s across Adak and Atka areas. Looking at your temperatures for tonight, we're not going to see much of a temperature range across the Gulf waters, with temperatures staying in the lower 30s to lower 40s across the southeast as well. And then across the interior, we'll see temperatures moderating a little bit cooler as you head north of Fairbanks towards the Brooks Range, staying in clouds, and temperatures cooling into the single digits. Along the north and western coast, expect temperatures to be below zero to -10 to -15 degrees across the southwest. Also, they're going to be moderating near their highs today, just staying around 15 to 25 degrees. And then across the AKpen is going to be in the lower 30s. Now, as we head to your day tomorrow, look at the temperatures across the southern areas of the state, notably warmer in the mid-30s to mid-40s. So we can see temperatures approaching 50 again, probably across the southeast, but we went conservative today with temperatures just in the mid to upper 40s, just for some cloud cover that may move in early in the day. Across the north and northwest coasts, primarily going to stay the same. So temperatures again will be in the teens, single digits to lower teens, and then across the southwest as well as the central interior, they're going to be warming well into the 30s. Across the Bering, they're going to stay the coolest tomorrow in the mid-20s to lower 30s, possibly into the mid-30s also around the Alaska Peninsula. Looking at your flying weather tomorrow, much of the state is breaking out of that MVFR condition and mainly staying across the coastal areas and the Gulf waters. Look for IFR conditions, however, across the Kenai and south of Kodiak Island where that low pressure system is. Looking at the afternoon, conditions are going to primarily stay the same with a little bit more snow development creating visibility difficulties across the southern areas of the Bering. And also possibly rain showers reducing visibilities down to MVFR across the Dixon entrance and maybe just north of there. Now looking at the passes in more depth, you have Anatuvik VFR and Adigan will also be VFR, and Lake Clark and Merrill Pass will be IFR to MVFR, and we'll see Rainy Pass go IFR to MVFR in the afternoon, and then we'll see Windy Pass VFR all day, and Isabel as well VFR. Good flying conditions will improve across Mentasta after some patchy morning fog with MVFR conditions. VFR in the afternoon. Tenita will be VFR all day, and Portage will be IFR in the morning, improving to MVFR in the afternoon. Chilkoot and White Pass, look for them to stay VFR all day. Looking at the freezing levels, primarily across the southern areas of the Bering, and then it scoops down below the Alaska Peninsula and then comes back in to the southwest along the western range and then just follows along the Panhandle. The 2,000-foot level will be moving at early morning hours. It'll be well into the southwest with the 4,000-foot level creeping into the eastern areas of the Gulf. Tomorrow's icing will be a primary concern across the Gulf areas back towards the southwest, with some additional concern from Kodiak and north across the eastern or western areas of the Aleutian Range down to the Aleutian Range. And then looking at your pattern for tomorrow, it's amplifying even more than what we had seen yesterday. Here's the large troughing across the Alaska Peninsula area with ridging forming a little bit more of a pattern, and this is going to be pulling up a warmer air mass. So a little bit of a split flow there, and as we look at your 9,000-foot surface, our winds are primarily coming out of the southeast, bring those warmer temperatures along 35 to 50 knot flow across much of the state, except for the very north where there's a little bit more cold air advecting around the high pressure there in the north. Southerly flow across the southeast as well. And then we have a change of direction of the winds as you approach the west coast and on down through the rest of the Bering, mainly a northerly flow between 20 and 35 knots. Very similar pattern at the 3,000-foot level with that northerly flow across the Bering. Stronger winds there noted between 25 and 45 knots, and low pressure across Kodiak will bring a change of direction around the Gulf waters with an easterly flow between 30 to 35 knots. So a little bit stronger flow along the northern side of this low pressure near the surface, and a 25 knot flow weakening as it approaches the southeast, and a very weak flow across much of south central, and that'll allow that fog to develop in the morning. Looking at your turbulence, to sum this all up, the main concerns are going to be across the central areas of the Gulf back through the southwest with problems across the Aleutian Range here below 4,000 feet, and then across the north, the easterly flow that's pretty strong offshore, and the northerly flow across the central areas of the Gulf. Okay, in just a moment, we'll be back with your marine forecast.
Hello again, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with the National Weather Service with another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. And joining me today are not just one, but two people, both with the last name Stevens, which is even more fun, but no relation. We have Eric Stevens from Gina and George Stevens, who is a mechanical engineering student from the University of Alaska, Fairbanks. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Awesome. And today you guys brought a really cool toy, or I should say tool, with you. It's a sandbox, but why are you guys working on a sandbox?
Well, it's part of our senior design project, and we were approached by AKwx to build this for them. They had a proof of concept that they developed about a year ago, I think, and they wanted a more robust version that they could pack onto a plane and take places, and it's a handy learning tool for kids and adults.
So you're a mechanical engineering student. You've built a traveling sandbox for the experimental program to stimulate competitive research, AKwx, and Gina's facilitated this. But why do we need a traveling sandbox?
Well, the prototype was such a big hit that they decided they wanted another one, actually two, that they could that would be easier to travel with, you know, possibly marketable even.
Okay, so this is a traveling sandbox. It's got a lot of bits and pieces and a computer hooked up to it. What is the computer doing with the sand?
The computer actually uses a Kinect sensor to read the topography of the sand or the shape of the sand, and then the computer translates that into information which it projects using a projector onto the sand, showing topographical lines and which is representative of the shape of the sand.
Okay, so this is a live mapping tool?
Yeah. It's interactive. As you're moving your hands through it, it is actively following and changing the lines to fit what you're doing.
That sounds like something I could have in my backyard.
Yep.
It'd be a lot of fun. So you guys had to change the design a little bit to make this more Alaska-fied, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, how'd you do that?
Well, the original was made out of basically lumber and Simpson strong tie type stuff, and we rebuilt it to make it lighter and basically more transportable. We can pack it down to a fairly small size, and it can be loaded onto a plane and flown anywhere in the state.
Which you guys did today. And you have plans to take this in other places of Alaska, right?
Yep, we're actually going to be headed down to Homer with it later today.
Okay, very good. Eric, how does this fit into science learning around Alaska?
Well, you know what? I think it is a tool and it is a toy. And it brings out a smile from an 8-year-old and the smile from a 48-year-old with that inner 8-year-old wanting to get out. The sandbox, it's an interactive learning tool that teaches us how topography in the 3 dimensions is related to, say, a 2-dimensional map. More about that later. Just like George was saying, it's got a Kinect sensor, not just for video games anymore. It can sense out the lay of the land there, feeds that information in the computer identifies that, sends a signal to a projector to send topographic lines to map over that lumpy ground. So you get a 3-dimensional topo map out of it. And my favorite thing about it, this is the thing that stops people at the trade show, they stop at your booth and don't leave, is that you run your hand through that sandbox and it responds in real time. It remaps the topography as you get to be Mr. Tectonic Plate Drifter there. You can make things how you want. Well, what if we made a really high mountain here and a low valley there, and the lines adjust to what you did? It's a learning tool because it shows you that connection between these 2-dimensional topo lines and what's really out in Alaska. And Alaska's a place with all kinds of topography. You know, we're from the Great Plains, where topo maps tend to be just like blank pieces of paper, but Alaska is particularly gifted in this regard, and this tool helps us, I think, learn more about our state, really.
Absolutely. And so this is going to enhance STEM learning, the science, technology, engineering, and math, in many different locations around Alaska. Then this would be something that kids and teachers can get their hands on.
It sure is. And I mentioned it's like fly paper at a booth that, or at the Science Potpourri when we had Greg's original version of this sandbox, and that one was made out of scraps of wood, and it was a prototype. But even that one, before it had some of the refinements that George and crew have made for this newer, upscaled, maybe a 2.0 version of the sandbox, even that one was so attractive to people. It just demonstrated that this has potential to be a learning tool, an outreach tool, an education tool that now is portable and can go places in Alaska Of course, there's only one sandbox, can't be everywhere at once, but hopefully it gets out there, gets the word out about EPSCoR and what science is being done here for Alaskans.
All right, that sounds really interesting, and I can't wait to get my hands in the sand and try this out for myself. We're going to demonstrate this here in our next segment of Alaska Weather Facts. But before we go, we want to remind you that EPSCoR, which is a new acronym for me now, but I'm going to remember this because you can follow them on Facebook and Twitter, and I invite you to do that. Alaska EPSCoR is also something that facilitates science learning at the University of Alaska around the state, and that stands for Experimental Program to Stimulate Competitive Research. So check that out, and make sure you tune in tomorrow because we're going to have the next version where we actually get our hands in the sand and check out how this works and demonstrates that topography. So for now, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, and we'll see you again next time.
Hello and welcome back to the show. We'll start off with your ice forecast. Looking at the ice edge, it hasn't moved any further north or south, but we did have some growth across the Bristol Bay area. Actually, we did have some southern growth in this small area, but across the rest of the area it remains pretty much the same, and we're not expecting much change as the sea surface temperatures stay the same and the temperatures across the southwest begin to come in a little bit warmer, so that'll prevent any further growth from happening over the next several days. Looking at your southeast forecast, we'll see the inner channels at 20 knots across the area with a northerly flow becoming southeast towards the Dixon entrance, and then the outer waters will be out of the south and southeast. Small craft to the north there at 25 knots. Inner channels will see 4-foot seas on your Monday, and the outer waters will be 8 to 9 feet. And then on Tuesday, a little bit lighter wind speeds across the inner channels at 15 knots, and then again north turning towards the southeast towards the Dixon entrance, and the outer waters will be at 20 knots with seas around 7 feet across the outer waters that day, seas 3 feet across the inner channels. Looking at your south central forecast, across the north to western Gulf, expect a little bit higher wind speeds towards the Baranof Islands, with the Prince William Sound lightest wind speeds there at 10 knots, all out of the east direction. Across the Cook Inlet to Shelikof Strait, they'll be out of the northeast at 25 to 35 knots here near just to the west of the Baranof Islands, and we'll see gales for that area on your Monday. Across the Prince William Sound, seas will be 2 feet across the western areas of the Gulf, between 9 and 11 feet, and then 5 feet across the northern areas of the Cook Inlet to 12 feet towards the south. Shelikof will be right around 9 feet. On your Tuesday, expect a north and easterly flow across the entire area, stronger winds across the western areas of the Gulf, gales across the Kodiak Island area, with the easterly flow being a little bit stronger here to the south. And then we'll see seas across the Cook Inlet between 6 to 11 feet and 13 feet across Shelikof Strait, and then seas across Prince William Sound will be 4 feet, and then the western areas of the Gulf will be between 12 and 14 feet. Looking at the Alaska Peninsula for your Monday, a north to northwesterly flow across much of the area between 15 and 20 knots, variable winds just to the southeastern areas of the Alaska Peninsula. Seas across the Bering side will be 3 to 8 feet, and then 6 feet across the Pacific side. On your Tuesday forecast, expect a little bit change of a direction, northeast flow to east, and then stronger winds to the south there. Seas on this day will be between 4 to 8 feet Bering side and 8 to 11 feet on the Pacific side. Looking at the Aleutian chain for your Monday forecast, a northerly flow holds across the entire chain with small crafts as you head towards the east, towards Dutch Harbor. Expect the strongest winds with 8 to 9 feet seas across the Bering side, with the Pacific side staying in a range between 6 to 9 feet. On your Tuesday forecast, a northwesterly flow across the central areas, a northeasterly flow as you head out towards the west, with seas the highest towards the central and eastern locations between 9 and 12 feet, and out towards the west between 6 to 8 feet. Looking across the west coast, a northerly flow here, all small craft, and we'll see seas between 5 to 8 feet across the ice-free waters. And then looking at your Tuesday forecast, a little bit lighter wind speeds just off the west coast at 20 knots, changing a little bit more northeasterly as you head towards closer to the west coast there. And then seas again this day will be between 4 and 11 feet, highest seas out towards the Pribilof Islands. And then across your north and northwestern coast, we'll see a north to northeasterly flow across the entire area. Small crafts along the northwest coast, Kotzebue Sound, Chukchi Sea. And then on your Tuesday forecast, expect an easterly flow across much of the area, changing once again to the north as you head towards the Kotzebue Sound. And taking a recap of the forecast as we head into tonight, we're expecting most of the snow to stay across the southwest, but don't forget we have blowing snow advisories out to the north for some snow accumulations, possibly up to 1 inch, with blowing snow reducing visibilities down to 1/2 mile at times. And light snow and rain will continue across the areas of the Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound and Kenai, with some light snow activity and possibly mixing with rain during the overnight hours with Kodiak. Northerly flow with snow showers across the eastern areas of the Bering. Taking a look across the north and northwest coast, look out for blowing snow there with some fog near the Barrow area, and also patchy fog across the Copper River Basin. Southeast stays in another nice night with mainly just passing clouds and a few light showers across the Panhandle. As we head into your Monday forecast, however, later in the day we might see a little bit more of those rain showers heading into the southeastern areas early in the day, mainly towards the Dixon entrance. Otherwise, showers will be confined across the Gulf waters and along the mountains here of the southwest, and light shower activity flurries are possible across the central areas of the state. We'll continue to see that north and northeasterly flow, blowing some snow back towards the eastern areas of the Bering, and the western half of the Bering is going to stay under relatively nice conditions with that ridge of high pressure staying in place over the west there. Strong northerly flow will continue mainly behind this low pressure system, and then another advancing low pressure system will be moving up from the North Pacific, so the southeast areas will need to look at for that one later on this week. Thanks for joining us again. I'll be back with you again tomorrow night.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, fueling philanthropic programs and dedicated to creating educational and professional opportunities for Alaska Native people.
Sometimes the best way to find a living is to stay right where you are and study with UAS online. Career-specific distance programs from the University of Alaska Southeast are the fastest way to increase your earning power.
We connect all over the world.